Welcome, kindred spirits, to a place of positivity, passion, and purpose. Hello and a warm welcome to our channel. Today, we're delving into Devonshire Street Cemetery. The Devonshire Street Cemetery, also known as the Brickfield Cemetery or Sandhills Cemetery, was located between Eddy Avenue and Elizabeth Street, and between Chalmers and Devonshire Streets, at Brickfield Hill, in Sydney, Australia. It was consecrated in 1820. The Jewish section was used from 1832. By 1860, the cemetery was full, and it was closed in 1867. As we transition to the next segment, let's unravel the mysteries surrounding history and gain a fresh perspective. In 1820, Governor Muswari ordered the consecration of the Devonshire Street Cemetery. The burial ground was set aside on Brickfield Hill. These cemeteries were the principal burial grounds from 1820 to 1866 in Sydney, and they were often called the Sandhills Cemetery, a colloquial name found on some death certificates which reflects the land at the edge of Surrey Hills. A brick wall was erected before any interment took place to enclose its 4-acre. Within a 4-year period, the cemetery was expanded by the addition of 7-acre to its south. A road was formed along the southern boundary of the cemetery in the first half of the eras and was called Devonshire Street. The Devonshire Street Cemetery, where many of the early settlers were buried, was later moved to build the Sydney Railway terminus. In 1901, the cemetery was resumed to allow for the development of Central Railway Station, Sydney, and representatives of deceased persons buried in the Devonshire Street Cemetery were given 2 months to arrange for exhumation and removal of remains from the cemetery. All reasonable costs were borne by the Government of New South Wales. The remains that were unclaimed were relocated to a purpose-built cemetery named Bunurong Cemetery. Remains that were claimed were transferred to a number of cemeteries as listed below. Bunurong Cemetery, south of the city, had a tram line constructed to make the removal of recasketed remains as simple as possible. Bunurong Cemetery was next to the Botany Cemetery and, in the early years, was absorbed by that cemetery to create the Eastern Suburbs Memorial Park. Central Railway Station was opened on for August 1906. Now, let's shift our perspective and explore re-interment cemeteries through a fresh lens, unlocking new perspectives. Cemetery locations in the metropolitan region that took re-interments from Devonshire Street Cemetery include Gore Hill Cemetery, St Thomas Cemetery in Crow's Nest, Rookwood Cemetery, Waverley Cemetery, Balmain Cemetery, Camperdown General Cemetery, Randwick General Cemetery, Bunurong Cemetery, Field of Mars Cemetery, Southhead General Cemetery, and Warrenra Memorial Park. Remains were also relocated outside the metropolitan area, including Sandhills Cemetery in Newcastle, New South Wales, and Berkeley Pioneer Cemetery in Anandara, New South Wales. An index created from a number of previous collections of information, including some remaining original cemetery registers, called the Devonshire Street Cemetery Re-Interment Register and Index microfilm format, was produced by the Library of Australian History, North Sydney, 1999. A copy is held by the State Library of New South Wales. A hardback book version was also produced. Moving forward, we'll be taking a closer look at notable people buried in Devonshire Street cemeteries. Aaron Buscott, Congregational Minister, missionary at Rarotonga and founder of Takamo Theological College, reinterred at Rookwood Cemetery. Robert Cooper, businessman William Capper, Anglican Archdeacon Alan Cunningham, English botanist and explorer John Donne, bushranger Michael Dwyer, Irish convict and leader of the Irish Rebellion of 1798 Cora Gooseberry, Murrow or Dial woman and cultural knowledge keeper John Gunner, chief clerk of the NSW Supreme Court for many years, solicitor, landowner George Howe, printer of the Sydney Gazette and the New South Wales Advertiser James Hume, architect Arnett Levay, merchant and theatre director Isaac Nichols, convict, farmer, ship owner, public servant and Australia's first postmaster John Joseph William Molesworth Oxley, surveyor general and explorer C. Mary Ryby, merchant, ship owner and trader David Schuurman, South African Khoi chief and political activist C. Joseph Thompson was an Englishman draper who was an elder of the Pitt Street Congregational Church. His remains were discovered by archaeologists during construction works for the Sydney Metro in 2019. Lancelot Threlkeld, missionary Robert Wardell, barrister and co-founder of the Australian newspaper Celia Wools, daughter of Mary Ryby. Your feedback helps me improve, so please take a moment to leave a comment or review.